Good evening, and welcome to the latest happenings inside our federal machine.
It's Friday, January 23rd, 2026. This is Spathon with another episode of The Swamp. The Trump administration has directed the U.S. government to formally withdraw from the World Health Organization, fulfilling President Trump's executive order he signed a year ago. According to President Trump, Canada has decided to do business with China and has taken a stance against the Golden Dome, protecting both Canada and Greenland. A massive winter storm known as Winter Storm Fern is sweeping across the country east of the Mississippi this weekend. Some areas in the south will get up to 2 inches of ice, and parts of the northeast will receive over 2 feet of snow. Following the winter storm, a large swath of the U.S. will be plunged into bitter cold, pushing temperatures well below zero across a number of states. The FBI has announced the capture of another top 10 most wanted fugitive, former Canadian Olympian and cocaine drug lord Ryan Wedding, who has been extradited to the United States. His capture marks the 6th FBI top 10 most wanted fugitive captured within the last year. The 53rd annual March for Life event was held in Washington, D.C. today, where Vice President J.D. Vance gave a speech, and just days ago, he and Second Lady Usha Vance announced they are having a baby. And there's a lot more that happened today, so we're going to dive straight in. And if you enjoy the daily updates, please consider subscribing to the channel, and don't forget to like the video at some point during this episode. And if you leave a comment below, I might just read it on Monday's episode, as I don't do the swamp over the weekend. It's Monday through Friday, but I still will read comments over the weekend, and any links or articles that you'll see in this video will be down in the description below. So we got this from the White House. Effective today, the United States has exited the World Health Organization. This fulfills President Trump's commitment under an executive order signed 1 year ago following the WHO's mishandling of COVID-19 and its ongoing lack of reform, accountability, and transparency. And I'm sure nobody's going to be held accountable for that. No individuals, especially like Anthony Fauci and what's her name? Birx. I can't remember her first name, but yeah, she's another co-conspirator with the whole COVID-19 debacle. Absolute nightmare. All right, so Deputy Secretary Jim O'Neill from HHS, he says today the United States withdrew from the so-called World Health Organization, who ignored early COVID warnings from Taiwan in 2019 by pretending Taiwan did not exist. Yeah, that sounds like clown world to me. It ignored rigorous science and promoted lockdowns. The United States will continue international coordination on infectious disease without the bureaucrats in Geneva. I love it. This is fantastic news. Of course, when a Democrat gets back into the Oval Office, if that day comes, it's just going to be a pendulum. We're going to exit the World Health Organization. We'll go back in. We'll leave. We'll go back in. I guess that's just the world we're living in these days. So joint statement by Secretary Kennedy and Secretary Rubio on the termination of U.S. membership in the World Health Organization. And let's see, where is it? Oh, okay. Yeah, here it is. I'm used to the links being down below in the comments. So, all right, so we got the joint statement, Secretary of State Marco Rubio and Health and Human Services Secretary Kennedy, and they say, hold on, I'd rather just skip to where the statement is. Let's take a look. All right, you know what, maybe I should just start from the top. All right, so today the United States withdrew from the World Health Organization, which of course we know by now, freeing itself from its constraints as President Trump promised on his first day in office by signing Executive Order 14155, which I'm assuming he signed way back in January of 2025. This action responds to the WHO's failures during the COVID-19 pandemic and seeks to rectify the harm from those failures inflicted on the American people. Promises made, promises kept. Like many international organizations, the WHO abandoned its core mission and acted repeatedly against the interests of the U.S. Although the U.S. was a founding member and the WHO's largest financial contributor, the organization pursued a politicized, bureaucratic agenda driven by nations hostile to American interests. In doing so, the WHO obstructed the timely and accurate sharing of critical information that could have saved American lives and then concealed those failures under the pretext of acting in the interest of public health. Even on our way out of the organization, the WHO tarnished and trashed everything that America has done for it. The WHO refuses to hand over the American flag that hung in front of it, arguing it has not approved our withdrawal and, in fact, claims that we owe it compensation. You gotta fucking be kidding me. From our days as its primary founder, primary financial backer, and primary champion until now, our final day, the insults to America continue. Going forward, the U.S. engagement with the WHO will be limited strictly to effectuate our withdrawal and to safeguard the health and safety of the American people. All U.S. funding for and staffing of WHO initiatives has ceased. The United States will continue to lead the world in public health, saving millions of lives and protecting Americans at home by preventing infectious disease threats from reaching our shores while advancing global health security through direct, bilateral, and results-driven partnerships. We will continue to work with countries and trusted health institutions to share best practices, strengthen preparedness, and protect our communities through a more focused, transparent, and effective model which delivers real outcomes rather than the bloated and inefficient bureaucracy of the WHO. Today, we right these injustices and bring an end to the bureaucratic inertia, entrenched paradigms, conflicts of interest, and international politics that have rendered the organization beyond repair. We will get our flag back for the Americans who died alone in nursing homes, the small businesses devastated by WHO-driven restrictions, and the American lives shattered by this organization's inactivity. Our withdrawal is for them. Amen. So well said. Marco Rubio and Secretary Kennedy, could not have possibly said that better myself. Very happy that they're doing this. I mean, look, like where do we even begin? We all lived through COVID. We knew all the nightmare with the lockdowns and the forced vaccination that so many people were getting, not just in the U.S., but worldwide. I mean, like hell, China, they were locked down for what, like 2 years or a year and a half? I mean, it got so bad. I remember in China specifically, it got so bad that there were Chinese that were locked up in their high rises, not allowed to leave. And I saw a video right here on the X platform of a Chinese individual who lived like on the 20th floor of a high rise. He was using a drone. He attached a fishing line and a fish hook with bait on it onto his drone, and he flew it all the way down to a pond that was in the courtyard area, and he was catching fish with it. It was absolutely crazy because they were literally starving in their high rises because they weren't allowed to leave. So anyway, this is fantastic news. It's great news. I think they should be held criminally accountable for everything that they've done with all the propaganda, the gaslighting, the outright lies. I mean, especially with the COVID vaccine. Anthony Fauci saying, yeah, if you get the COVID vaccine, you'll be completely immune to getting COVID. I don't think he gave a percentage, but vaccines typically, if you get a vaccine, it's something like 92% chance that you're not going to get whatever it is that you're trying to protect yourself from. Yeah, COVID didn't do a damn thing. If you got the COVID vaccine, you were going to get it anyway. And I mean, look, all of us who were paying attention, we knew that. We knew it was a therapeutic. It wasn't a vaccine. And looks like we were proven correct. So, all right, so we're going to move on to the White House. Canada is against the Golden Dome being built over Greenland, even though the Golden Dome would protect Canada. Instead, they voted in favor of doing business with China, who will eat them up within the first year. President Donald J. Trump, he wrote that on his Truth Social account. And yeah, man, I don't know what the hell Canada's been smoking. They've got far more liberal in like the last decade or so. And if I'm not mistaken, they are already importing EVs from China, and they're very cheap EVs, and you get what you pay for. So I'm sure they're going to have to allocate a lot of land for a lot of junkyard space for those Chinese EVs in the very short few years to come. All right, so U.S. Commerce Department, NWS Director Ken Graham on this weekend's winter storm, quote, this is going to be a big, impactful event. And, he's going to say all of this, the big, long quote, he's going to say right here in the video. So why not hear from him?
Let's bring in Ken Graham, Director of the NOAA's National Weather Service. Ken, this seems pretty bad, the longest in so many years. And the thought is, to the last minute, we're wondering, did anything change? From your models, could anything change at the last minute?
Well, what's not going to change is this is going to be a big, impactful event. I mean, I was looking at our weather.gov website, and 2,000 miles of watches and warnings. It's just
Yikes.
absolutely incredible. More
Look how
than
many
half the
Americans.
country is going to experience winter weather.
235
So not much
million.
is going to change. There's small details, how much snow, how much ice, a little movement north
Not
and
even
south.
on the
But
map.
the big
I'm like
takeaway
way,
for the
way down
public
here.
is you got to be ready. This is a big, impactful storm, three-pronged, right? You're going to have the cold air coming in that's going to last for
Look at that, 18,
more than a
24
week.
inches.
You're going to have the snow, 8 to 12 inches, if not more in some places, and the devastating, catastrophic
8 to
in
12
some areas,
inches all
ice
across
that
this
could knock
band.
out power, knock down power lines, trees, and that's
Tree
a
branches,
prolonged event and a dangerous event. So air travel, ground travel, a big impact, that's not going to change. That's going to
Yep, absolutely. And, I've been living in Florida for a long time, over 20 years, but I did spend some time in Indiana back in 2011. There was a nasty ice storm that hit that area. I think the whole region got that ice storm back in 2011. Anybody who lives about like around in this pink area, you probably remember that. It was nasty, man. It was like 2 inches of ice. The ice was so thick in like the yard space, like people's front yards, that you could ice skate on the front yard. It was absolutely insane, man. Down trees, down power lines, like the whole 9 yards. So that was absolutely wicked to just so happen to be there when that ice storm happened. And it was nuts, man. So yeah, I hope everybody's going to be okay. Over 200 million people are going to be affected. Hopefully that you got all your provisions and everything. I mean, I'm not to say that it's too late to go out and get anything last minute. I'm sure, the last minute procrastinators are probably jam packed in the stores right now. Hopefully you got your bottled water and, all your non-perishable food and stuff. If you're lucky enough, you'd have a fireplace. Meanwhile, down here where I live, it's going to be 80 degrees tomorrow. And it's going to be, I think, 80 degrees on Sunday too. But we're going to get the cold weather. It's not going to get nearly as cold as it is across the rest of the country. But, we're going to get a little chilly next week. But we're going to get to that here in a minute because it's going to get really cold. I mean, like parts of Minnesota is looking like what, I think almost negative 50 degrees. And that's not the wind chill. That's like the actual temperature. It's nuts. All right, so U.S. Commerce Department, NWS Director Ken Graham on staying safe during the winter storm. Stay off the road, stay home, listen to your local officials, and plan ahead to take the storm seriously. So we'll see what he says.
To people who might be thinking about, should I go to work on Monday? Do we send the kids to school on Monday? Or school districts that are watching? What's your advice for if someone has something planned, a meeting? Give us Give us some of your advice, please.
There's no snow in New York right now.
It's because everyone's thinking this, right? Like, what can I do? Can I travel? The big thing is just stay off the roads. Listen to the local officials is the big thing. I mean, there's, check on each other. There's warming shelters. Local officials are setting up, different resources for people. But the big thing is listen to local officials. If schools are closed, stay home, stay put. Because it's not just the snow. In some places, it's the snow and it'll be sleet and ice. We're going to have large areas of sleet, with making travel absolutely hazardous. So the big thing is, stay home, have supplies, and be ready.
Yeah, man, it's going to be nasty. It's going to be nasty. Okie dokie. So that's going to be through Monday, by the way. So it's going to be an all-weekend thing. NWS Weather Prediction Center major storm begins today, rather. Heavy snow and crippling ice will impact a large region, along with over 170 million Americans from the southern Rockies and Plains today toward the Northeast by Sunday. Be sure to stay safe and follow winter safety, and that's at weather.gov/safety. Definitely will be linked below. Gives out just, read more on winter safety, warning signs, hypothermia, all the safety stuff that, probably most adults are already familiar with for the most part. But you never know, especially in an ice storm situation. Down power lines, it can knock you out of power, and they might not restore your power for days, especially where the heavy ice storms are going to be. And the cold weather that's going to follow this is what's going to be especially dangerous, especially in places that lose their power. So the chances for at least 6 inches of snowfall, that's all in the color there. That entire swath is going to get at least 6 inches of snow, and at least a quarter inch of freezing rain is going to be in this region too. So I mean, it looks like, so Tennessee, like extreme North Tennessee, might get a little bit of a double whammy, maybe. So especially along that line, man, just like the line that goes like right on the southern edge of this or the northern edge of the below image. I mean, they might get a mix of both, which is, kind of the worst of both worlds. All right, and let's see what else we got. NWS Weather Prediction Center, the stage is set for a major winter storm to produce widespread heavy snow and dangerous ice accumulations. Travel will be dangerous to impossible in the hardest hit areas. Frigid temperatures in the storm's wake will make for treacherous travel conditions into early next week. major January winter storm. Total snowfall accumulation, as we already went over, it could be up to 2 feet in some parts of the Northeast. It looks like 6, 8, 12 plus inches is going to be pretty common along anything in orange. And ice accumulation all over Texas, man. Texas is going to get just hit with, I mean, they're not getting hammered as hard as it's going to be in the Mississippi area. It looks like they're going to get over an inch. I think, yeah, I was going to say some spots, I might actually have another image of that. I believe I saw somewhere else that there was this band, they were expecting over an inch, like approaching 2 inches of ice, which is insane. National Weather Service, in the wake of this major winter storm, communities from the southern plains to the northeast will contend with bitterly cold temperatures and dangerous cold wind chills. This will probably cause prolonged hazardous travel and infrastructure. What was it? Infrastructure impacts. I thought it said delays, but impacts. So these are all the counties that are being affected. Extreme cold warning happening, and that even includes way down here, like even down to the Mexican border, for crying out loud. They're going to be an extreme cold warning. It's not going to be the same temperature as it's going to be up here in Minnesota, of course. It's just down here in the south, people aren't as used to that, when it drops well below 32 degrees and you have the power knocked out from an ice storm, obviously a very dangerous situation. Most of Oklahoma is going to be an extreme cold warning. And cold weather advisory is in like the bluish, like the like grayish bluish color, and then that dark blue gray color, extreme cold watch down in Texas, Louisiana area. And the next image, the low temperature forecast. This is ending Saturday, January 24th. So I'm assuming this might be early Sunday morning or maybe 11:59 p.m. on Saturday. That's when they're going to predict those temperatures. And for ending Sunday, January 25th, 2026, a lot of single digits all over. And I think it gets real bad the next day, right? Yeah. So this is when it really starts to plunge into bitter cold. Got Oklahoma and Kansas, Nebraska, all in the negatives. Looks like half of Missouri is going to be in the negatives. I mean, needless to say, Minnesota, all right, -24. So maybe it was the wind chill that I was reading during the intro of the video. I said it could be up to -50. That must have been the wind chill prediction. I thought it was the actual temperature, but still, man, 24 degrees below zero. To hell with that, man. That's crazy. So Indiana, single digits. Yeah, so, you got it. Here it is. You can pause it to actually get a more thorough look at it. And we'll move on to cybersecurity and infrastructure security and agency, right? Is that what it is? Yeah, agency. Cybersecurity and infrastructure security agency. Yeah, I always forget what CISA stands for. A is for agency. That makes sense. So we're monitoring a major winter storm expected to impact large areas of the eastern and central U.S. with disruptions to critical infrastructure expected. Visit ready.gov to learn more. National Weather Service, a significant long-duration winter storm will bring widespread heavy snow, sleet, and freezing rain from the southern Rockies to New England through Monday. Widespread travel disruptions, prolonged power outages, and vast tree damage is likely. There's still time to prepare for most. Check out weather.gov/safety/winter for more winter weather safety tips. And the winter storm planning day before, adjust your plans. Multiple ways to receive warnings. Bring pets indoors and ensure they have water. Even if you live like on farms, I'm sure that farmers are already well prepared for situations like this with, heating lamps and things like that. Check on your neighbors, ventilate your emergency heat sources, keep generators at least 20 feet from the house, and take it easy when you're shoveling. Yeah, you don't want to wrench your back, man. That would be like the worst time. All right, Texas Division of Emergency Management. State emergency response resources are staged across Texas in preparation for potential impacts from winter weather. Are you ready? Texans can locate winter weather safety information at disaster.texas.gov. And this is what it looks like, tdem.texas.gov. So the information can be found there. And you remember a few years ago when it got really cold in Texas and their wind turbines were freezing up, and they were receiving like catastrophic damage because the hydraulic fluid was freezing up in those things, and it was rendering them completely useless. I don't know how many of them that they lost, but it was in like the higher millions, like probably approaching $1 billion, something like that. I know it caused like an insane amount of damage. Just the cold temperatures. I don't know if they got snow during that event, but I know it got really cold. I think that was the winter of 2023, 24, I think. Yeah, somewhere around there. So yeah, man. So Texas, they're getting all the heavy vehicles out. They're ready to get down to business, man. bring the disaster relief. Tennessee Emergency Management Agency, January 23rd, today at 9 a.m. Central Time. Preparedness isn't one size fits all. What you need to be ready may look different than your neighbors, and that's okay. When making your plan for the expected winter storm, think about your household's needs, your kids, the elderly, pets, medical, mobility needs, and power-dependent equipment. The best plan is the one that works for you. Make sure your prescriptions are filled. You don't have to have a whole month's worth. Like what do they usually say? Like 3 days, maybe 5 days worth. It's kind of similar to what they suggest for tropical storms and, like not major hurricanes, but lower level hurricanes. Keep your cell phone charged, have your flashlights ready, extra water, a week's worth of food. There you go, a week of food and medication, non-perishable food and manual can opener, move cars away from the trees. I mean, look, even if you have perishable food, just put it outside. I mean, like people do that, right? I mean, it's going to be cold enough. It might freeze your milk, your refrigerated stuff. Oh shit, I accidentally clicked too far away, but that's all right. I can get back to it fairly quickly. I don't think we're too far down the list here. All right, so here we go. Secretary Chris Wright, with the winter storm quickly approaching, we're going to do everything we can to keep the lights on and keep power prices down for all Americans. And the Wall Street Journal is going to paywall me, man. I didn't notice that till just now. Damn it. Whatever. So it is what it is. That's okay. It'll be linked if you just so happen to have access to the Wall Street Journal. No biggie. I got more stuff to get to anyway. FTC getting ready for the big winter storm. Make fraud prevention part of your emergency plan. And you can learn more I'll just click on it directly, at consumer.ftc.gov when dealing with weather emergencies. Extreme weather and natural disasters can occur with little warning, leaving you to make critical decisions when you may feel rushed. The information here will help you spot, avoid, and report scams as you are prepared for, deal with, and recover from extreme weather and natural disasters. And it looks like we got a video here, so let's give this a watch.
After a weather emergency, you might have to recover quickly. But that's when scammers and unlicensed contractors will show up. They'll appear right after a storm and offer to get your power back on or to make essential repairs. But if you pay them, they'll take your money and disappear.
Yes, they will.
Or leave
100%.
before finishing the work you paid them to do. Check out ftc.gov/weather emergencies to know how to spot and avoid disaster-related scams.
Yep, happens here in Florida all the time after hurricanes. These people who pretend to be contractors, roofers, they'll show up and they'll offer you like rock bottom basement prices. They'll say they'll start work tomorrow. You can get ahead of everybody else. Yes, we can contract through your homeowner's insurance. Like they feed you a whole bunch of bullshit, and they'll take your quote unquote deposit, and you'll never hear from them again. And a lot of the time, they'll go door to door doing that shit, and they'll be all dressed up. Sometimes they'll even have their stupid hard hats on and the vests and everything, trying to look all official with their fake ass name tags and everything. All right, so here's some articles: how to prepare for a weather emergency while avoiding scams. How to organize your important papers before a disaster strikes. At least here in Florida, I mean, it seems effective to me. But every time that we get a storm if we have to leave, there's only one instance where I ended up leaving the house. I ended up staying at my mom's place because she was in a non-evacuation zone at the time. This was Hurricane Irma in 2017. So flood zone wise, you could put your important stuff. I mean, I took the papers and stuff with me, but if you have stuff that could be damaged by water. Even like if your roof collapses, like if the elements can get inside, a dishwasher works because dishwashers are, they're watertight. So take out your drawers in the dishwasher and you can pack it full of, important stuff that picture frames, photo albums, stuff that might be heavy that you don't want to lug with you. You can just chuck it into your dishwasher, just don't accidentally turn it on, All right. So how to organize your important papers, how to avoid scams after weather emergencies and natural disasters, how to get back on track after a weather emergency, and so on and so forth. Okay, that'll be linked. Of course, it'll be linked. From FEMA, during events like the major winter storm this week, we often get questions about where FEMA is and how we are responding. Right now, we are closely coordinating with federal, state, and local authorities to monitor potential impacts. Disaster response is led by states and tribes who are ready to face unique local challenges and well prepared to support their communities. If the impact of the storm exceeds what a state or tribe can handle, they can submit a request for federal assistance through the declaration process. You know what? I won't link that because that's more, for like state. You know what? I will because I said that I link everything, so it'll be there regardless. All right, so until then, we are fully engaged with our partners, not just in D.C., but in the areas of potential impact, and will continue to stay engaged throughout the storm to align resources and address any unmet needs. This includes moving teams to affected areas to ensure close coordination with state officials and positioning resources like generators near areas that may request help. You know, it's quite a change from the Biden administration now, isn't it? You know, FEMA, they're proactive this time. You know, even if it's crazy, blue and cotton candy hair, septum pierced, tattooed up liberals, if they need help, guess what? FEMA's going to help you out too. They're not going to skip your houses just because you have a political sign out front like they did in freaking North Carolina after Hurricane Helene. However, FEMA may not be funded for very much longer because the Senate looks like they're going to shut down the government to attempt to not fund ICE. But it's not just ICE that they're going to try to defund. It's Homeland Security in general, because ICE is underneath Homeland Security's umbrella for funding. And if they refuse to fund ICE, they're not going to fund FEMA either. All right, so anyway, Governor Abigail Spanberger, she says, yesterday, I declared a state of emergency in Virginia ahead of this weekend's winter storm. I'm asking Virginians, please take this time to prepare for very low temperatures, dangerous road conditions, and potential power outages this weekend and in the following days. See, look, she's signing the piece of paper. You know it's official because she's there signing it. All right, from the White House, record cold wave expected to hit 40 states. Rarely seen anything like it before. Could the environmental insurrectionists please explain whatever happened to global warming? That's a very good question. President Donald J. Trump. Newsflash, leftists, liberals, progressives, the climate's always changing. It's always changed. We're still coming out of the last ice age. So naturally, the Earth is naturally warming up because that's what the Earth does when it comes out of an ice age. All right, so Rep. Fern Buchanan. So we're going to move on to, So we're going to move on to the law and order segment of the swamp. After years of rising violence, the House GOP is restoring law and order. New data shows the murder rate has fallen to its lowest level since 1900. Since 1900, 126 years, it hasn't been down this much, with homicides down 20% nationwide. Well, you know what? A free society was never meant to be a safe society. It'd be nice if it was a safe society, but, you know, in the world of freedom, you know, the criminals, they have access to the same tools as everybody else. So, you know, naturally, there's always going to be an element of danger. All right, so thank you to the law enforcement officers who keep our communities safe. And this will be found on Fox News. They did link an article. Murder rate lowest since 1900. That is crazy, crazy good news. Hell yeah, it's good news. Murder across the U.S. dropped last year to a historic low, according to researchers, marking a dramatic turnaround after violent crime surged in the wake of the coronavirus pandemic and as left-wing leaders espoused ideas like defund their police departments and releasing repeat offenders without bail. The Council on Criminal Justice report weighed crime statistics from 40 cities that have reported monthly data for the past 8 years. It found 11 of 13 crime categories dropped in 2025 compared to 2024. 9 of them dropped by 10% or more, including homicides, which saw a 21% drop. Quote, President Trump promised to bring back law and order to the United States of America. White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt wrote on X on Thursday morning, along with a chart from the Council on Criminal Justice, showing the country saw its lowest homicide rate since 1900. Dude, that blows my mind. This is what happens when you have a president who fully mobilizes federal law enforcement to arrest violent criminals and the worst of the worst illegal aliens. You know, just the whole homicide rate low since 1900. Like, people were killing each other like fucking crazy back in the 1800s. That's what that suggests to me. Seems like it was just, well, yeah, there was the Wild West and all that, I guess. You know, murder rate, man, must have been unreal back then. Trump had campaigned heavily on reining in crime, especially migrant crime, and crime in the nation's capital dropped notably last year after the president took a hands-on role. He later ordered federal involvement in other cities. So I imagine they're just going to get into the details on that, which, I mean, if you follow politics daily, you're pretty well familiar with that. You know, law enforcement, federal enforcement going into New Orleans and Memphis and Washington, D.C. I think, definitely in Chicago for a period of time. He deployed the National Guard to Los Angeles, but that was during the immigrations and customs enforcement, rounding up all the criminal illegals. All right, Rapid Response 47, FBI Director Kash Patel, quote, today we are announcing the capture of another FBI's most wanted top 10 fugitive, Ryan Wedding. That makes 6 top 10 FBI captures in 1 year alone. That's 2 more than the entirety of the prior administration. And this was probably about maybe 2 weeks ago. They announced that Mexican authorities had seized motorcycles belonging to Ryan Wedding, and they numbered in the hundreds. They maybe even over 1,000. They showed an image of a ton of motorcycles that they had valued up to $40 million. Imagine $40 million worth of motorcycles. Well, they found shipping containers that he was hiding all these motorcycles in, and the Mexican authorities found them. So obviously they were closing in on him, and they captured him. So let's hear this
Today
from...
we are here because of President Trump's incredible leadership and commitment to supporting law enforcement across the country and around the world. We are here today to announce another record historic achievement because of law enforcement partnerships across America.
Like good cops be cops.
Come together to fight crime in all corners of the earth. Today, we are announcing a capture of another FBI's most wanted top 10 fugitive, Ryan Wedding.
This is a big one, man.
Top 10 FBI captures in 1 year alone. To put that in perspective, that's 2 more than the entirety of the prior administration.
Yeah, this is a huge capture because they said that he is arguably the most prolific drug kingpin in recent history. Just this cocaine overlord of sorts. Used to be an Olympic snowboarder, believe it or not. At my direction, Department of Justice agents at FBI have apprehended yet another member of the FBI's top 10 most wanted list, Ryan Wedding, the one-time Olympian snowboarder turned alleged violent cocaine kingpin. And this is from AG Pam Bondi. Wedding was flown to the United States where he will face justice. This is a direct result of President Trump's law and order leadership. Under President Trump, criminals have no safe harbor. Director Patel has worked tirelessly to bring fugitives to justice. We are grateful to our incredible Ambassador Ron Johnson and the Mexican authorities for assisting us in this case. Outstanding work from FBI Director Cash and U.S. Attorney Esselie and all of our partners. And we got this from Fox News. FBI Director Patel says fugitive Ryan Wedding was apprehended Thursday night in Mexico City in what was an interagency-wide effort led out by President Trump, our DOJ, and our partners in Mexico. So I don't know if it's going to be the same statement. It might be.
Operational sensitivities. Ryan Wedding was apprehended last night
in
Mexico City. And
more info.
To safeguard the integrity of the ongoing investigation, we will not go into that. But I think it goes without saying, to go down to Mexico to find a guy who's been on the lam for multiple years for some of the most egregious crimes on planet Earth takes an interagency-wide effort led out by President Trump, our DOJ, and our partners in Mexico, and very grateful for that partnership.
Yep, they got him, man. They got him from CBS News. Another one from FBI Director Cash Patel.
Today, we are announcing a capture of another FBI's most wanted top 10 fugitive, Ryan Wedding.
Okay, so we did hear that part.
Attorney General Pam Bondi and the Department of Justice and our partners and prosecutors at the United States Attorney's Office here in LA and our Los Angeles field office. Here you'll see many of our brave partners, including the Commissioner of the RCMP, the Chief of Police and LAPD, our LA field office, ADIC, along with our partners from DEA and CBP and more. This is what a united front looks like. And just to tell you how bad of a guy Ryan Wedding is, he went from an Olympic snowboarder to the largest narco trafficker in modern times. He is a modern-day El Chapo. He is a modern-day Pablo Escobar. And he thought he could evade justice. But these brave men and women put together a prosecution package, put together an investigative package, put together an operation strategy, and here we are today bringing him to justice for trafficking hundreds of kilos of cocaine and also for the murder of innocent civilians. This individual and his organization and the Sinaloa cartel poured narcotics into the streets of North America and killed too many of our youth and corrupted too many of our citizens. And that ends today.
It kind of reminds me of that movie American Gangster. If you lie about one offshore account, you'll never get out of prison. If there's one single cent we find, you'll never get out of prison. I mean, look, that was what was his name? Frank Lucas back in the 1960s in Harlem, New York City. A great movie. It was one of my favorite movies. Pretty good. Denzel Washington, but wasn't cocaine though. That was heroin during the Vietnam era. Okay, so U.S. Attorney WDNC Live FBI Director Cash Patel arrives to announce 10 most wanted fugitive Alejandro Rosales Castillo's return to Charlotte. They just busted him just the other day, and this is gonna be what? It's gonna be on Facebook. All right. I guess we can come over here to Facebook. Uh-oh, something's glitching out. Yeah, whatever. All right, so U.S. Attorney's Office, past live video. Oh, man, this is a long video. All right, so maybe we'll just get like a minute or so of the opening remarks. Dude, this video is atrocious, man. Oh, okay. All right, it's starting to clean up. All right, here we go. This is the worst freaking video ever, man. Come on, U.S. Attorney's Office. I mean, they didn't have somebody manning the camera. They couldn't just, like, turn it a little bit to the left and zoom in. Evidently not. All right, so where's the full screen? Here it is.
Law enforcement, FBI.
All right, here we go. Rock and roll. We sound good?
All right, good afternoon, everybody. I'm
Yep,
Patel,
we're
the
good.
Director of the FBI. Today, once again, thanks to President Trump's brilliant leadership and relentless support of law enforcement, we are here today to announce another record-breaking year for the FBI, and specifically for the community here in Charlotte. Thank you also to Attorney General Pam Bondi's leadership of the Department of Justice. She has championed victims her entire career, and she never forgets them or her families. And the combination of that is what led us here today. The FBI,
Well, she needs to go after political figures,
captured, excuse me, Mr. Alejandro Castillo in Mexico, one of the top 10 most wanted fugitives on the FBI's most wanted
the James
list.
Comeys of the
He has
world.
been on that list for over a decade, evading law enforcement. And to put that in perspective, how much effort goes into this, it is an entire interagency operation from the FBI to the state police, to the local police, to the U.S. attorneys, to the district attorneys, and to the Mexican authorities. That is the only way to bring justice for Sandy Lee, who tragically and brutally lost her life so many years ago at the hands of this brutal monster. I want a special thanks to the Mexican government, President Sheinbaum, Secretary Harfuch, and a special thanks to Ambassador Ron Johnson down in Mexico, representing our interests in Mexico City. A tremendous partner. When I was down there just this week, offering our
Two
support
fugitives from Mexico,
and meeting
back
with
to
the
back.
individuals and the
They
leaders
probably
down
flew him
there
in on the
of
same
our
flight.
streets, preventing harm to our youth and our children. We've had a 35% increase in espionage arrests, preventing harmful actors from China, Russia, DPRK, and Iran from infiltrating our societies. We've had so many more great successes because of the leadership and the dedication and commitment and the resources given to law enforcement by President Trump and this administration. It is truly, truly a historic moment when you can deliver not one, but two of the FBI's most wanted fugitives in one single day.
There you have
I
it.
believe that's ever
Same
happened
flight.
before, and I'm not sure if it'll ever happen again. But the one thing I ask of you guys in your communities is thank these folks here and thank those guys down there, because they do the work day in and day out, and they barely get credit for it. And the media blasts them for doing their jobs. But we are here to stand behind Blue. We will always be behind law enforcement because you protect our children, you safeguard our communities, and with the power of the United States Attorney's Office, we make sure those criminals are never, 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 ever again attacking the loved ones that we hold most dear to us.
Okay. All right. So that's going to be on Facebook. I guess I can link it. I haven't linked anything from Facebook before, but I'll give it a try at least. You know, I'm sure. I don't think that YouTube would have a problem with that. All right. So let's move on to the next. From FBI Most Wanted. FBI top 10 most wanted fugitive Ryan Wedding has been arrested in Mexico, brought back to the United States. He is the 500th top 10 most wanted fugitive who has been captured or located since the program began in 1950. Wow, man, that's almost poetic. Directly number exactly the 500th, huh? Help the FBI capture others on the 10 most wanted fugitives list. And you can do that by looking at their top 10 right here. 10 most wanted fugitives, and they've got them right here. There's 2, there's 4, there's 6, captured. Ryan Wedding. There's 8, there's 10. They got them 2. They've been captured. He's the other one that Cash Patel was just talking about. So yeah, there's still some that are still outstanding, but they're going to update the list and add a few more, replace the ones that they've captured. And FBI Director Cash Patel, I mean, don't really have to go through all this because we already heard him speak on more than one occasion. So you know what I'll do? I'll just repost it. There's a direct link to my profile in the description below if you want to have a look at that. And yeah, so there's the flyer for Alejandro Rosales Castillo, who is now in federal custody. And I'm sure he's going to be remanded without any bail while he awaits trial. Criminal Division, former commissioner of the U.S. Virgin Islands Department of Sports, Parks, and Recreation has been sentenced for a bribery scheme. What? No, I'm not a robot, DOJ. Okay. Former commissioner of the U.S. Virgin Islands Department of Sports, Parks, and Recreation, or SPNR, Calvert White, was sentenced yesterday to 5 years in prison for soliciting and accepting a bribe from a government contractor in exchange for assistance. in attempting to obtain a $1.43 million government contract. His co-conspirator, Benjamin Hendricks, was also sentenced yesterday to 68 months in prison for his role in the same scheme. Calvert White rigged a public bid process in exchange for a bribe, said Assistant Attorney General A. Tyson Duva of the Justice Department's Criminal Division. He abused the trust of those who live in the community he was supposed to serve. The Criminal Division will continue to prosecute government corruption. Such conduct undermines the integrity of our institutions at every level of government. The defendant's convictions send a message. Public corruption is unacceptable and will not be tolerated by our community, says U.S. Attorney Adam Sleeper for the District of the Virgin Islands. And according to court documents and evidence, White solicited and accepted a bribe from a government contractor, David Whitaker, through Hendricks, who acted as an intermediary to facilitate payment of the bribe. The scheme lasted about 7 months, beginning around December of 2023, and continued till the FBI approached them in June of 24. As part of the scheme, in December 23, White demanded the bribe from Whitaker to be later paid through Hendricks. In exchange for the bribe, White agreed to assist Whitaker in obtaining a valuable contract for the installation of security cameras at SPNR properties in the Virgin Islands. Really? It cost $1.43 million for freaking security cameras? Obviously, I hadn't heard of Amazon. You didn't get security cameras for like $20 on there now. As part of the scheme, White provided confidential bid information to Whitaker and took official action to encourage the awarding of the contract to Whitaker. During the bid selection process, Whitaker sent the bribe payment to a bank account controlled by Hendricks, who later delivered the funds to White. The jury convicted both White and Hendricks of 1 count of honest services wire fraud and 1 count of bribery concerning programs receiving federal funds. And moving on, rolling on down to the next. Abigail Jackson. This is targeted enforcement of violent offenders, the same criminals you've been providing safe haven to. Yesterday, DHS arrested murderers and gang members, which they've got some here, and they're responding, of course, to Tim Walz, Governor Walz of Minnesota. I'm glad the vice president agrees the temperature needs to be turned down, but actions speak louder than words. So basically, they just want to remove ICE completely from Minnesota just to allow all these criminal illegals to just essentially get away with murder. We don't need 3,000 ICE agents in our streets, more than every local police department combined. Take the show of force off the streets and partner with the state on targeted enforcement of violent offenders instead of random aggressive confrontation. Dude, they're already doing that, you freaking propagandist. They're already doing that. It's already targeted operations. Homeland Security. We are calling on Governor Walz and Mayor Frey to agree to turning this child predator over to ICE so this criminal can never prey on innocent American children. This is exactly what we have been saying. We need state and local law enforcement engagement and information so we don't have such a presence on the streets. If we work together, we can make America safe again. Incredible. The sex criminal migrant who ICE said is on the loose, the one they were supposedly looking for when they burst into the house of the frail guy in his shorts, was in jail the entire time. Well, what do you know? Okay. Well, they would have known that if Minnesota would cooperate with federal agents. They would have just scooped him up from jail. They wouldn't have had to go through all that bullshit. All right, heading on. We got more from the immigration side of things. Sigal Chada, United States District Judge Richard F. Boulware II ordered the release over the government's objection. Our office remains committed to protecting public safety and enforcing the law remains our priority. The release of a convicted murderer and known MS-13 gang member into the community raises serious public safety concerns. We're deeply troubled by the risks posed to the public and will continue to pursue all lawful avenues to address those concerns and safeguard the community. And she's responding to U.S. Attorney Nevada. The federal government seeks further review after the release of a convicted murderer from immigration custody. Lovely. And this is the judge of the United States District Court for the District of Nevada. He assumed office in 2014, of course, appointed by Barack Obama. Of course, no big surprise there. And too often, they let convicted criminals out. Even some who have served decades in prison for murder, they let them out on parole, and then almost immediately they commit a murder. Especially if they got a vendetta against somebody, if they've got like an ex-lover or something. Like, too often you hear about that, about someone who committed like a horrible crime, like R-wording somebody or assaulting a loved one, and then they get thrown in jail, and then the judge decides to cut him free, and then he goes off and he murders the exact person that should be protected. And It just happens over and over again. I'm not saying that this person will definitively commit murder, but it's definitely a high freaking risk. All right, so Rapid Response 47 from 4 hours ago. This propaganda trash is outrageous, even for fake news ABC. The boy wasn't detained by ICE. Of course, they're talking about that 5-year-old. Just the other day, authorities, they attempted to stop, I believe he was in a vehicle at the time, an illegal immigrant who had his 5-year-old son with him. And instead of sticking around, he took off running. He left his 5-year-old behind, just left him. He just took off, abandoned him completely. And so the fake news media, they're saying that the child was arrested by ICE. Now they're saying he was detained by ICE. You know how the fake news does things. Fact, when ICE agents approached the boy's illegal alien father, the man fled, abandoning his child in freezing cold temperatures. Agents stayed with the boys for hours, bringing him McDonald's and listening to music in attempts to calm him down. The boy's own mother refused to take custody of him. With no other choice, the boy was reunited with his dad at a federal processing facility. So essentially, they had to take him in a freaking jail to meet back up with his dad. It's absolutely insane. So what? So I guess that's what Democrats want. They don't want children being ripped away from their parents. So what? I guess we just have to take the whole family to jail now. I mean, that's what they seem to be advocating for.
The growing outrage in Minneapolis, the images of a 5-year-old boy returning home from preschool, detained by ICE.
He wasn't returning home from preschool. He was in his father's custody. He was with his dad. Whether if he was in a vehicle or they were walking down the sidewalk, basically irrelevant. The point is that the dad took off running and left his 5-year-old behind. I mean, what else is there to say? He wasn't just leaving school. I mean, maybe he and his dad probably picked him up from school, but the way they frame that just makes it sound like the innocent child was just walking down the sidewalk heading home when he was just brutally detained and arrested by ICE agents.
Taking the boy and his father into custody. Vice President J.D. Vance in Minneapolis today defending ICE agents, claiming they were protecting the child, saying, what are they supposed to do? Matt Rivers in Minneapolis again tonight.
Tonight, the haunting images sparking.
They're not even going to show us that statement from J.D. Vance. Of course, they're not going to. This is all propaganda, man. Low IQ bullshit propaganda.
School officials say 5-year-old Liam, wearing his blue hat and backpack, and his father, Adrian Alexander Conejo Arias, had just pulled into their suburban Minneapolis driveway Tuesday when agents took that father into custody. The school then saying an agent
also not mentioning that he took off running away from the scene, leaving his 5-year-old behind. You notice how they're framing it, so whatever. I mean, these people are fucking despicable.
Directing him to see if anyone else was home before taking the boy away. The district saying Liam is among 4 students recently detained.
The growing outrage in Minneapolis.
Recently detained, my ass. These people are freaking cultists. They're morons. They're freaking despicable. Should be ashamed of themselves. And you know what? And ABC, they've actually put out a couple of decent news reports recently that I've shown here on the Swamp. I mean, I thought they were kind of making a positive turn in the right direction, but obviously not. All right, Senate Republicans abolishing ICE isn't enough for deranged Democrats. Now they want to ruin the livelihoods of our brave federal agents for simply doing their job. Every Senate Democrat needs to tell Americans if they support these disgusting attacks on law enforcement. Washington Examiner, I think they pay well too, don't they? They probably do. Democrats push to blacklist ICE agents from future government jobs. And, oh, no, maybe they don't. Oh, yeah, they do. Of course they do. No, you know what? Let me just give it a try. Let me see if it works. I've done the Washington Examiner before. I don't think this is going to work. Maybe this time I'll remember for next time. Open it up in a private browser. Sometimes you can bypass the paywall. And maybe we'll get... Nope, didn't work. Oh, well. So Democrats... Well, you know what? I could probably listen to the whole audio. Let's hear how this sounds.
This article is brought to you by the American Society of...
All right, whatever. We're not going to listen to stupid ads. All right, so Democrats are vowing to resist President Donald Trump's sweeping deportation agenda by promoting policies to bar federal immigration officials from obtaining future government and law enforcement jobs. The pledges from progressive candidates seeking higher office go further than the party's growing calls to abolish ICE or to slash its funding. Instead, they are warning of personal repercussions for Trump-era immigration and customs enforcement officers and deterring recruits from accepting lucrative sign-on bonuses. How is this not terrorism? This has got to be a form of terrorism. Trying to scare them into quitting their jobs, so therefore ICE won't have enough personnel to conduct these raids. That's what this is. It's freaking terrorism. The way I see it is if you work for a fascist, forget about ever working for the state. Rep. Eric Swallowswell said, who's running for governor in November, told the Washington Examiner, no one is holding a gun to their heads and saying you have to go out and terrorize people in the community. This is a choice at this point to stay employed with ICE. Swalwell is pledging to use his would-be executive powers to effectively blacklist ICE agents from any of the state's nearly 250,000 government roles by conditioning state grants to not employ former ICE officers, a threat that would also apply to local police departments. Yep, unreal, unbelievable. And this is why that people are fleeing California. I think that they're at a point where they're year over year at a net loss of their population. There's more people leaving California than any other state in the country, and for obvious good reason. I mean, if Swallowswell gets into office, I mean, look, anybody who sticks around, I guess you kind of deserve it. And if you don't want Eric Swallowswell to be governor, guess what you got to do? Yeah, you got to vote. Go and vote. And there's too many people that don't. Too many people that take that position that, well, it's only one vote. My vote's only one drop in the bucket. I mean, if I vote or not, it's not going to make a difference. Well, if you take all of those people that have the same mentality, it would probably, the entire state of California would probably be red, probably in every county. Well, maybe almost every county. I don't know. All right, so Stephen Miller, Biden presided over the largest wave of child smuggling in human history, enriching the cartels beyond imagination. Yeah, I hear numbers. It's in the hundreds of thousands. I think the close to the official numbers, like 350,000, 400,000 children that have gone missing under the Biden administration. Yep, they were just allowed into the country and they just didn't keep track of them, just let them all disappear. Hundreds of thousands of children. God knows what's happening to them. I don't even want to imagine it. All right, so President Trump shut it down. Our immigration laws, all our immigration laws are being upheld and illegal families are being kept together in their home countries, as they are. If they apprehend an illegal immigrant, they will give them the option to reunite with their family. Their family can go with them. All right, so Commander Op at Large, California, Gregory Bovino. He's Gregory Bovino. So the Mean Green is patrolling Minneapolis through the cold, through the snow, and through it all, arresting illegal aliens until the mission is accomplished. We're here and we're making the city safe. Well, they better bundle up next week, man. It's going to get crazy cold up there. All right, I got a feeling that's copyrighted. They always do this, man. Gregory Bovino, ICE, Homeland Security, even the military. The military does that a lot. They play copyrighted music, and I can't do it, man. YouTube doesn't let me do it. Not that I have, I'm not at a point, with my YouTube channel that it really makes much of a difference, because I'm not monetized or anything like that. But maybe one day, one could hope and wish. Maybe one day it might happen, and if it does, then I'd already like to have that habit already formed, so that way I don't make a mistake. Look, YouTube allows you to play it, and then when the video's over, I can have it automatically mute this part of the video, but it takes like 2 hours worth of processing for that to happen, and my video won't post until like freaking 2 o'clock in the morning, so I don't want to do that. It's just better just to mute it. All right, so Homeland Security, watch ICE and CBP hold a joint press conference to update on immigration enforcement operations that are currently underway. So just like the last press conference with FBI Director Kash Patel, I'll just play just a couple of minutes of the opening statement. And I'll go ahead and repost it right now before I forget. Again, direct link to my profile in the description below, or you can just go to DHS.gov over on the X platform. If you're not on X, if you don't have an account on X, I don't think you have to be signed in on X in order to view posts on there. So you should be able to just click on that link and it'll take you straight there. All right, so let's give this a listen. Let me see where it starts. Oh man, way back here, huh? All right. Commander at large. Maybe that's what CA stands for. I think he is from California, though.
And then turn it over to my colleague, Mr. Marcos Charles. And at that time, after Mr. Charles is done, we'll take any questions that you may have. So operations continue unabated here in Minneapolis. Several illegal alien criminals taken off the streets yet again over the past 24 hours. Again,
Sweet.
That is what we're here to do. And we're not going to be deterred in doing that. We are going to take these criminal illegal aliens off the street and make America a safer place, make Minneapolis a safer place. Again, that is why we're here. Let me detail a couple of illegal aliens we took off the streets over the past 24 hours that were walking our streets over those past 24 hours.
Yep, because Minneapolis' streets are America's streets.
Acosta, charged with cocaine trafficking.
After all, we are united.
And a controlled substance violation. This is an interesting one because this individual was what we would term as a golf, which is a getaway across the border. This individual crossed the border and was a getaway. More than likely, over those past 4 years, when we had millions crossing the border,
for sure,
unabated. This is what we get in our communities. What happens at the border does not stay at the border.
Nope.
Sure doesn't. And then we have Lin Lee, an illegal alien from Red China.
Great.
This
communist.
Individual is charged with child neglect and endangerment. Let me say that again: child neglect and endangerment and prostitution.
Lovely.
An illegal alien walking the streets.
Do you want her reunited with her children, Democrats?
Now,
probably.
We just talked children yesterday a little bit. Let's talk a little more, since we've got an illegal alien we just took off the streets of Minneapolis that was someone engaged in child neglect and endangerment. Here in the U.S. Border Patrol, I will say unequivocally that we are experts in dealing with children. Let me say that again: experts in dealing with children. Not because we want to be, but because we have to be. Over those past 4 years, hundreds of thousands of children were trafficked across that border. Yep. Guess who they came into contact with? Sometimes who was the very first law enforcement agency or American citizen that they saw.
Yeah, I know. Customs and Border Protection and the Biden administration forced them to let those children through, even if they were not with their parents. Because these traffickers, they would say, oh, yeah, that's my daughter. And they're like, yeah, you certainly are. You are free to pass. That's what the Biden administration was doing.
U.S. Border Patrol, followed by our counterparts at Immigration and Customs Enforcement. We're definitely the experts at dealing with children, unfortunately. Hundreds of thousands under that last administration. Not to mention the 300,000 lost children. 300,000 plus lost children trafficked across that border. Now, when we've got the news media talking about children,
the FBI only found like 15,000 of them so far.
300,000 lost children. How about the 14 that we recovered at that pot farm a few months ago in Camarillo, California? The 14 lost children trafficked across the border that were found working illegally on a pot farm in California. Very little reporting.
Oh, that's probably tame compared to what a lot of others are going
through.
Really
hear much.
Again, I don't even want to imagine it.
And then some of the more heinous crimes against children that are trafficked across the border that ICE and Border Patrol saw daily back when that border was out of control over those past 4 years.
Yep. And Democrats allowed it year after year after year after year.
Border Patrol agents there in the El Centro sector encountered a young child who was approximately 3 years of age. The child appeared to be drugged. Not with his parents,
I remember that. I think he was in a vehicle.
Agents managed to wake the child up after doing what is known as a stern.
If I remember right, I thought there was more than one. There was like 3 kids.
Which is a technique to wake someone up that may be induced by drugs. As the child woke up, we understood the child's parents were not with him, and medical examination saw that this child had non-surgical sutures in his abdomen. Let me say that again. Non-surgical sutures in the child's abdomen. He was being trafficked across the border in that condition. That's not an isolated event with the U.S. Border Patrol or ICE. We saw that many, many times. Drug children coming across the border, and guess what? Other than a couple of news outlets, I believe News Nation and Fox reported, nobody else would. Nothing on
for sure.
A child with non-surgical sutures in his
doesn't fit their narrative,
and nobody knows why.
Sweep it all under the rug. Those are future Democrat constituents. You got to leave them alone.
Some of you had questions on the 5-year-old yesterday. That 5-year-old remains with his family. We say that again, remains with his family. We know that. That false media narrative that was pushed out yesterday was, well, it was false.
Yep. Fake news, as always.
But let's talk about who doesn't remain with their family. And I think this is the most important thing that we're talking about with children.
The neglect.
How about our victim of the day? A victim at the hands of illegal alien criminals, these same criminals that we are taking off the streets that you see on these screens behind us. This victim was Rachel Morin. She left behind 5 children. Let me say that again. She left behind 5 children after she was killed by an illegal alien from Central America. He decided to murder her and hide her body in a culvert.
Yeah, where's the justice for her?
Wait a second, that was after he raped her. She's separated permanently from her 5 children.
Yep,
Let me say that
and they
again.
don't give a shit.
Separated permanently.
Democrats say, I don't want to hear
children. Why isn't that reported on? Very little reporting in the local news media or the news media.
Because they're driven by cultist ideology.
Situations. Now,
they don't care.
I would
they're
call
like, well,
this the DSP
if you want to make an omelet.
That's a term that I
that's
made
their
up.
mentality.
I'm not a medical doctor. I'm a Border Patrol agent. It's called the double standard phenomena. Say that again. The DSP is the double standard phenomena. We see this quite often, the DSP. American citizens that are arrested daily here in Minneapolis, are they separated from their children and family?
Yeah,
absolutely,
all the fucking time.
As they should be.
Obviously.
Criminals face consequences. Criminals face consequences. But yet that double standard does not seem to apply to illegal aliens. Why is that? Perhaps someone could detail that for me, because I
cultist ideology,
don't quite understand all the parameters involved in the DSP, the double standard.
They're brainwashed and brain dead, and got a bunch of psychopaths running these states, these sanctuary states. That's what they are, man. They're psychopaths. All right, so that'll be linked if you want to check that out in the description below. All right, so Homeland Security, as a reminder, during the Biden administration, 450,000 children. You see, like, they throw numbers around. Like Greg Bovino said 300,000. Homeland Security says 450,000. So, you know, it's in that range. The truth is they really don't know. It might as well be 500,000. The real numbers probably maybe 600,000. We really don't have a clue because they just let them all flood in. All right, so 450,000 children were either lost or placed with unvetted sponsors. Secretary Noem is leading the effort to locate them. From this experience, ICE and CBP law enforcement have become experts in safeguarding the well-being of minors. And I'm pretty sure we already heard this because he went over the whole, like, we're experts, you know, so on and so forth. I'll repost it if you want to see it anyway. And let's roll on to the next one. I'm sure I got another one. Yeah, so, okay. Oh, no. All right, so we are moving away from law enforcement. I thought I had a couple other ones with regard to immigration. So we're going to pivot over to a couple of statements by the Democrats. Rep. Diana DeGette, Republicans want you to believe it's either jobs or clean air. Here's the truth. We have clean air laws. Companies break them for extra profit and want a get-out-of-jail-free pass. No, what they end up doing is that they just offshore their company. They go over to a country where they don't have to deal with, you know, extremely stringent, over-the-top, often ridiculous, quote-unquote, clean air laws. That's how they get away with it. Den Veritas, who... I don't even know how to say that. Den Veritas, who live and work near the Suncor plant, breathe toxic pollution 365 days a year while industry breaks the law. Denverites. Okay. Denverites. I thought that was like some Latin word or some shit. All right. So anyway, Denverites who live and work near the Suncor plant breathe toxic pollution 365 days a year while industry breaks the law. This has to stop. And while I focus on my mental retardation, I'll go ahead and play this for you.
We heard conversations about the negative health impacts of a refinery, which happens to be in my district.
This refinery, Suncor, has been dodging environmental regulations for decades. Those violations have made the zip codes some of the most polluted zip codes in America.
Yeah, well, isn't this like in a very blue state? What about the 4 years under the Biden administration? Why didn't you all do anything about that then?
And we know that
Why
many
now?
of these
It's awful convenient that now they're going after him, now that Trump's in office.
Regulations in Colorado come from the perspective of banning natural gas entirely.
The neighborhoods have a 24% higher death rate than other Denver area residents.
Does that have anything to do with clean air, or does that have to do with just crime statistics? It's probably crime statistics.
We're going to be running a refinery up there. We sure as heck should be running one that complies with the clean air standards so that the people just south of that plant in my district are not forced to breathe this polluted air every day, 360 days.
Yeah, well, that stinks like misdirection, smoke and mirrors. You know, there's a lot that they're probably not telling us. You know, 24% higher rate of death there probably has nothing to do with clean air or dirty air. Probably has everything to do with, I don't know, maybe murder rates and things like that. But I don't know. I'm not from Colorado. I've never been there. So, you know, what do I know? All right, so Michelle Tafoya. This is exactly why people hate career politicians. So, you know what? I'm going to start from the beginning because there's a few posts here. All right, so this is the original one. Michelle Tafoya. Isn't she a journalist? I think she's a journalist. 4-time Emmy Award-winning sports journalist, candidate for U.S. Senate in Minnesota. And she's running with the GOP. For years, I walked the sidelines when the stakes were the highest, and that job taught me how leadership really works. I'm running for U.S. Senate to bring that experience to Washington and deliver the real results Minnesota deserves.
For years, I covered the biggest football games in America. I walked the sidelines when the pressure was mounting.
Ooh, that's loud. Sorry about that.
That job taught me about.
That's why I don't know who she is. I don't watch sports.
It taught me about how leadership really works. When leaders are prepared and accountable, teams succeed. When they aren't, people pay the price. When I look at Minnesota and Washington today, I see politicians selling out honest, hardworking people like you. I see massive government fraud exploding on Tim Walz's watch, ripping off taxpayers and embarrassing
No
our
accountability.
state. I see radical ideologies being forced into our schools and sports, putting young women and their teammates in danger. I see politicians undermining and attacking police officers, then making excuses when crime rises and communities suffer. And I see middle-class families paying more while working harder just to stay afloat. For too long, hardworking people have
That's
been
going to get way worse in
ripped
Minnesota.
off by criminals,
Electricity costs are about to go
and
way
career
up in Minnesota.
politicians. And the people doing everything
With their
right are the
Go
ones
Green
paying
energy
the biggest
energy
price.
initiative.
Well, I'm not going to stay on the sidelines any longer. Starting today, I'm running for the United States Senate. As Minnesota Senator, I will clean up the system, fighting
Was that Bruce Willis she was walking with?
ending the fraud, and protecting your tax dollars. I will protect what's fair and safe, standing with our law enforcement officers, deporting dangerous criminals, and keeping female sports for female athletes. And I will make our lives affordable again, cutting middle-class taxes, strengthening American manufacturing, and lowering the cost of groceries, prescription drugs, and mortgages and rent. I hear the same message everywhere I travel.
Downsizing the government would be a good start.
Minnesotans are yearning for common sense leadership again. It's time for a political outsider and a reformer with a real plan for working families. I'll ask the tough questions and demand honest answers. Our campaign is bigger than right versus left. It's about competence over corruption. The pressure is mounting again, and the stakes could not be higher. It's time to bring our state together.
Yeah, no doubt about
and
that.
Look to the future with pride. If you're looking for new ideas, real results, and big change, I'm Michelle Tafoya, and I'm ready to lead.
All right, well, don't know anything about her. I don't know if she's planning on taking any money from big corporations and K Street lobbyists and all that. Let's hope not. Yeah, but anyway, hopefully she's genuine. Hopefully she'll do a good job if she wins. It's probably a kind of a tall order coming from Minnesota, but you never know. You know, Minnesota's been in the spotlight. Their corruption is very out in the open now that they've been exposed for their $18 billion in Somali fraud. All right, so Angie Craig, she said, I helped run 2 manufacturing companies, employed 16,000 people, and capped the cost of insulin at $35 a month for American seniors. I love football as much as anyone, but watching it from the sidelines for years doesn't make you remotely qualified for the U.S. Senate. Ooh, yikes. All right, well, you know, a similar case could probably be made about Donald Trump, and he ascended straight up to the presidency. And so Michelle Tafoya said, in response to Angie Craig, she said, this is exactly why people hate career politicians. Elitist, snide remarks designed to keep the government just for them and not for we the people. I'm incredibly proud of my self-made career rising to the highest levels of journalism in one of America's most beloved and high-profile industries, sports. I'm stepping up because I'm ready to serve and make life better for Minnesotans. Angie and Peggy are part of the failed elite leadership class. It's time for a change. Look, these days, I would not trust any journalists at all. Just coming from the mainstream media, I don't care if they're running as a Republican or not. I mean, is she a wolf in sheep's clothing, so to speak, quote unquote, what have you? I don't know. I really hope not. You know, I hope I'm completely wrong about her. Hopefully she's, you know, very America first. diehard conservative, checks all the boxes as far as making America great, keeping America great, and so on. So this is from the Senate Republicans. That's Roy Cooper, and he's the candidate for the U.S. Senate in North Carolina. And I answered some of your most burning questions. Watch the full video at the link of my bio. I guess. Okay. So the link's going to be in his bio, which means if you click on his name, like that's the link right here. I mean, I guess I'll link it. You know what? Fine. I'll link it. Actually, it might play in the background, so I'll just pause it. It's 8 minutes long, so I'm not going to go with it. But I'll be fair, and I'll link it. I just don't have time. I don't have 8 minutes to devote to Roy Cooper. So, but anyway, I'll at least play this one. I'm Roy Cooper, candidate for U.S. Senate in North Carolina.
Roy Cooper? Of course. Senate. Yeah, I'm running for the United States Senate. Things cost too much. Not enough people have health care, and there's too much chaos in Washington. I knew I needed to step up for my country, and I need your support.
Oh, whatever, dude. You're going to bring so much more chaos. Last thing we need in the Senate is another friggin' Democrat. All right, so there's that. Oh, I did it again. Oh, no. All right, let me go try to find out where we left off. Oh, see, I'm already close. I'm close. Here we go. There we go. All right, we're good. All right, continuing on. Rep. Richard Hudson, incredible statement. This is worth a few minutes of your time. All right, I'll give him a few minutes. Congressman Greg Murphy, MD, the Ways and Means GOP committee held a hearing on the impact of rising healthcare costs on patients and families. We have to get serious. We have to have serious reform of health insurers, pharmacy benefit managers, and their subsidiaries to reduce the cost of healthcare.
I had brain surgery myself 5 weeks ago, and I don't care if I was on dialysis, if I had an LVAD in, or if I was intubated, I was going to be here. I have been a physician for 35 years, and sadly have had a front seat to witness the decay and decline of one of America's largest industries, and that's the health insurance industry.
Oh, 100%, man. I've said that so many times on the Swamp. I've given a personal example about health insurance. In 2010, I had to get surgery. I was in the hospital for 10 days, so I went through that whole process, 6 weeks of recovery, had a stent removed along the way, and the entire thing from start to finish cost me less than $400. That's it, less than $400 for all of it. And I didn't have, top tier superstar insurance. I had just run of the mill. I think it was with United at the time. And I didn't work for some elitist corporation. It was just some everyday job. And my insurance was like $150 a month. Now, granted, I was in my 20s back then, so, like insurance tends to get more expensive as you age. However, to get the same procedure now, it would cost me $8,000. I know it will, because I have to pay something like 40% out of pocket up to an $8,000 maximum. That's pretty standard around the insurance industry these days. So comparing the insurance that most of us get today compared to where it was in 2009, it's night and day. Like the insurance back in 2009, that would be more along the lines of like the Medicare for all stuff. Like it's pretty much like free compared to where it is now, where you have to pay thousands of dollars out of pocket on an annual basis.
I have had patients cry in my room. I have had physicians cry to me,
they're bankrupting people today
in disgust, and quit because of actions of our health insurance industry.
And thank Obamacare.
Nothing you're going to say to me today is going to change that. You have put profits above patients, and you've put profits
100%.
above those who care for patients. You're sitting here blaming hospitals, pharmaceutical companies, even physicians. There is blame to go around there.
Yeah,
but
they've
you
inflated
have
costs,
squarely
for sure.
abused your privilege of authority to deliver health care to patients in this country. There are a few good actors in the industry. Mr. Markowitz, I believe you're one of the good actors. If it were up to me, I would throw out all for-profit systems in this country and turn everybody into nonprofit. It has gotten that bad.
I cannot agree more. At this point, I cannot agree more. Amen. Look, I'm as much of a capitalist as anybody else. I believe capitalism it's sorely needed in our country for it to function and for us to be, the most powerful, richest country in the world. But on the other hand, when it comes to the system that the Democrats have rolled in and had the federal government essentially hijack our health insurance industry and allowed them to just run rampant, cutting blank checks. Like we could just bill whatever the hell we want and they'll pay for it. And it's just caused this hyperinflated system that we just can't afford anymore. It's completely unaffordable.
But you all have been very derelict in your duty and abused this position of authority. There has been systematic denial and delay of care. It took me 8 denials myself to get a medicine that I need to exist.
Wow, dude, what? Holy shit. Well, it does. I read somewhere that United Healthcare, they deny something like 35% of all claims. Even some procedures that are life-saving, they're denying something like 35% of every single claim that's submitted. And I'm sure there's probably a graph out there that might illustrate that. Just to bring up the late 2000s again, I would love to see what their rate of denial was back then versus where it's at right now. Again, it's probably night and day. It's probably like 3-4% back then and right now. And I'm sure if you look at the graph, it's probably just skyrocketing. It's still going up and up. Like, are we on track in 5 or 6 years? Are all the health insurance companies going to be denying like 50% of all procedures out there? And where does it stop? And we're paying more and more year after year. Meanwhile, we're just getting denied more and more often.
A year and a half. I'm a physician and a member of Congress. It took me 8 times through CVS to get that medication. I didn't pull any strings. I did what I was supposed to do. Imagine the average person in the country. There's been a weaponization of prior authorization. You are killing people who are trying to deliver health care.
Yeah.
There's been abuse with the Medicare Advantage plans. My God, I could talk about that for hours.
And dude, like some of these people have been paying their insurance for decades. They've been paying for decades. And many people, they've never even cashed in on their insurance other than just seeing their doctor for a checkup.
Receiving and extorting taxpayer dollars. The vertical
and their profits are nuts, man.
Is disastrous and criminal. There have been record profits. I don't want to hear about the fact you're not taking profits. We know how money gets moved around in these companies. The C-suite executive salary compensations is a slap in the face to the average American who goes bankrupt because they cannot afford health care.
Absolutely.
You all showed up last summer at HHS and you said to Secretary Kennedy, a mea culpa, yes, we've been doing things badly. We're going to fix things. I won't believe any of that until I see it.
They never will.
So far, I've seen nothing.
Not until they're forced.
Surprise billing. Bipartisan legislation passed into law by President Trump. You all own and keep millions of dollars that are owed to providers today that you're not paying them, that have been adjudicated in their favor. That is fraud.
Yeah, and what they're going to do, they're just going to wait for a lawsuit, and they'll show up to the lawsuit, and the judge will order them to pay like $100 million. Meanwhile, in actuality, they probably owe billions of dollars. And health insurance, whether if it's health insurance companies or pharmaceutical companies, they do this shit all the time. They do things that are blatantly illegal or fraudulent or outright killing people with some pharmaceuticals like the OxyContin epidemic back in the day. They were ordered to pay something like $3-4 billion, but meanwhile, like during that whole epidemic, they made hundreds, I don't know if it was hundreds of billions of dollars, but they made like 10 times more the amount of profits on that medication than they had to pay out in damages. It's a fucking joke, man.
Healthcare, you guys give a wonderful thing that you're going to return Obamacare premiums. I wonder and perplexed whether it would have occurred if these hearings had not been there. But what about the billions of dollars that you've stolen from the American taxpayer because people were fraudulently enrolled during COVID?
Well, I wasn't here when that happened.
Medicare
Passing
Advantage.
the buck.
You've made the diagnosis secondary hyperparathyroidism an amazing thing. 70% of your MA patients have it, while 3% of fee-for-service patients have it. It's unbelievable. You've manipulated medical cost ratios by the way that you pay physicians and the way that you hide money through your PBMs. The vertical integration, you guys own PBMs, you own pharmacies, you own health agencies.
Yeah, and all these acronyms, like all these acronyms that he's spouting off, it's just a gibberish to the average American, and it's supposed to be. Like that's how they design all these companies and their complexity, like how he says they move around these profits around. That's just so confusing. Probably some like high-level tax lawyers probably don't even understand how this shit works.
Good God, you own a bank.
What?
Why would insurance company
own banks?
a bank?
I wonder why.
I had a very spirited discussion with Dr.
Because
Decker.
they're profiting off of the money that they have accumulated. They throw into their bank, and then they hand it out in forms of like loans. I'm sure they probably loan out mortgages and car loans. So they're taking these insane profits from bankrupted Americans, and they dump it into a bank where they loan that money out and get more profits on top of the profits.
A couple years ago, and I outlined all the Wall Street Journal articles documenting the egregious practices that were going on by United Healthcare. And all he had to say in an arrogant and audacious manner was, "We are doing nothing illegal."
And look, I know nobody wants to bring it up. Wasn't it the CEO of United Healthcare who was assassinated? And look, the guy who did that, look, I'm not going to excuse what he did. He absolutely should have not done that. I don't care how evil that these corporations can be. Even if the CEO was responsible for squandering a lot of the money away from the American people, whatever the case might be, it's kind of hard to have a bleeding heart for these types of people when all of this shit is happening. And I don't know offhand the backstory of the guy, the assassin. I think it, like his sister or his aunt or somebody in his family, like they were denied care and they ended up dying. And, that's why he did what he did. All I'm saying is that happened.
Well, right now, several of your organizations are under investigation for criminal and civil charges or for misconduct, and we'll see if things
they'll get another slap on the wrist.
I am here with the outrage of the American people.
Amen.
Right now, we're trying to lower drug costs. Will each of you, I'd like a yes or no answer, will each of you commit to allowing Trump RX or cost blood medications to go towards patient deductibles? Mr. Hemsley. I'll take that as a no. Mr. Joyner.
Of course not.
Absolutely. If it lowers costs for Americans.
Thank you. Ms. Boudreau.
For the lowest cost and affordability, we're open to figuring out how to make sure.
Oh, bullshit.
Fuck
Fuck you.
Deductibles. I'll take that as a yes. Mr. Cordani.
All right. Well, maybe a yes.
Would accommodate that. Yes, sir.
Excellent. Mr. Markovic. You
Yes.
don't own a PBM.
Yes.
He just said yes.
All right, Ms. Young.
There you go.
On that one. I don't agree with Mark Cuban often, but we
Good
do agree
grief.
that what needs to happen is that you guys need to be broken up. The vertical integration has destroyed competition in this country. And
Yeah,
again, if I had
100%.
my way, I'd turn all of you guys into dust. We'd start back from scratch. We'd have competition in the industry. We'd
Thank
have
God.
associated health plans, and we would have
God willing.
non-profit hospitals rather than profit being put over patients.
100%.
Sadly enough, I'm not naive enough to believe that anything that's been said today is going to change boardroom behavior. I don't think it will happen. The bottom line is profit. And that's what's happened in this country. And this is where the American medical system, compared to the rest of the world, is sad, comparatively. But finally, I am glad that we have a president in the office who doesn't care about special interests, who is willing to confront and tackle what I believe is unethical, unscrupulous, and unprincipled behavior of the American health insurance industry. President Trump has said he's going to do it. I believe he's going to do it.
Oh, I believe
and
it too.
It is long overdue.
It is long overdue. Man, what a banger, dude. What a freaking mic drop. Everybody needs to see this video. I should have led with this video if I knew it was going to be that profound. And look, he was in the industry. He's a physician, for crying out loud. So he knows how the system works. And just absolutely incredible. I mean, really, President Trump, just based on this statement alone that he gave, President Trump should I don't know like what power that he might have as president in order to put him in some position to be able to dismantle the health insurance companies. It'd surely be nice if the freaking Republicans would do something, being that they control the House and the Senate and the Oval Office, and they got the Supreme Court on their side, a majority 6-3. But nope, doesn't seem like they're probably going to do anything. Just drag their feet and just just stonewall Democrats with their affordable health care extension, which is the primary driver for this nightmare. Which is what's so appalling about it is that Democrats, they say that they champion Medicare for all. They want to give everybody free health care. But at the same time, they're the ones paying, or they're the ones that are allowing our taxpayers to go to these health insurance companies, which are absolutely ruining our healthcare system. And it's almost as if they're just doing it all by design. They just want to make it so egregious and just so jaw-droppingly horrific, the health insurance industry and the medical industry, that Americans will just say, all right, we've had enough. We have to pull it into the government and have the government take care of all of it, which would make it exponentially worse. It'll make it far worse. Imagine these health insurance companies just receiving blank checks for everything. Like no matter what, the government, the oversight is lousy at best. And that's what they'll do. They'll start cutting, multi-trillion-dollar checks to them on an annual basis. Because I'm sure Democrats have no intention at all, if they were to do Medicare for all, to dissolve all of these health insurance companies. I highly doubt that that's in their agenda. It just, I don't know, man. Kind of makes you wonder. All right, so I guess we'll move on to Senator James Lankford. The so-called Affordable Care Act is the only healthcare program that circumvents HIDE protections. Americans want our healthcare system to save lives, not take it. And it's estimated that the HIDE Amendment has saved over 2 million lives. We don't believe that some children are disposable and some children are valuable. We believe all children are valuable. We can reduce the cost of healthcare, but to do it, Democrats are going to have to be more flexible on Hyde. And this is an article on Fox News regarding the Hyde Amendment. This January 23rd, we mark the 53rd annual March for Life. We also recognize the 50th anniversary of the Hyde Amendment, which settled in law that American taxpayers do not subsidize elective abortions, period. The Hyde Amendment is not about if elective abortion should be legal. It's about who has to pay for it. For 5 decades, each Congress has voted in favor of the annual appropriations bills to affirm the Hyde Amendment. The citizens of our great nation have strongly held and widely diverse opinions about abortion, but in poll after poll, Americans agree that they should not be forced to pay for someone else's abortion. Or I would say not just abortion, poor decision. It's quite simple to keep yourself out of a situation where you'd have to get an abortion. Keep your damn legs closed. How about you start with that? Don't go around and just bang people. Take some responsibility. You're a freaking adult. Or like 99% of people, I don't know if it's 99, but I guarantee it's in the high 90 percentile of women who get an abortion are adults. So anyway, the Hyde Amendment has 2 clear tenets. Federal taxpayers do not pay for abortions or subsidize programs that pay for abortions. Every federal health care program has Hyde Amendment protections, including Medicaid, TRICARE, and Children's Health Insurance Program, and Indian Health Services and Medicare, except for one healthcare program, Obamacare. Big shocker. The so-called Affordable Care Act is the only healthcare plan that circumvents Hyde protections with its notorious Section 1303, a county gimmick created when the bill passed 16 years ago, 100% by design. Now remember, how many Republicans voted for Obamacare when it was initially passed? 0. And the same with the subsidies. 0. Not a single one. 100% Democrats. That's of no surprise to anyone, I imagine. Democrats will often say Obamacare abides by the Hyde because Section 1303 requires a separate payment of at least $1 each month for abortion coverage. Well, I don't care if it's $1 or if it's a penny, it's still paying for it, which they know is an accounting sleight of hand. As soon as the law passed 16 years ago, the Obama administration ruled that separate actually meant together, which allowed one payment to be split into 2 parts, often paid for by federal tax dollars. The millions of people paying 0 premiums for Obamacare do not pay an additional $1 for their abortion coverage. It's included in their taxpayer-subsidized premium tax credits. So now there's 12 states that will not even allow a healthcare plan to be sold in the state unless it covers surgical and chemical abortion. In those states, every taxpayer is forced to subsidize abortions with their tax dollars and with their monthly premium dollars. Roughly 15 different insurers failed to even itemize dollars associated with abortion coverage on their enrollees' bills, nor did they separate bill for the abortion premium amount, which is required by law. So anyway, it goes on a bit longer. So as always, it'll be linked if you want to check that out again over on Fox News. And we're going to get into the March for Life from the White House. 6 years ago, the president was proud to be the first president in history to attend the March for Life. Since then, he has made incredible strides to defend the unborn. Quote, "We have stopped forced taxpayer funding of abortion at home and abroad. Every child is a gift from God."
Hello to everyone at the March for Life. For 53 years, students, families, patriots, and believers have come to Washington from every corner of the country to defend the infinite worth and God-given dignity of every human life. In 2026, as we celebrate 250 years since our founding fathers recognized the right to life in our Declaration of Independence, I want to thank every single one of you who was out on this winter day, a beautiful day, but it's winter nevertheless, to stand up for the unborn. 6 years ago, I was proud to be the first president in history to attend this march in person. Since then, we have made unprecedented strides to protect innocent life and support the institution of the family like never before. There's never been anything like it. In my first term, I was honored to appoint judges and justices who believed in interpreting the Constitution as written. That was a big deal. And because of that, the pro-life movement won the greatest victory in its history. Now the work to rebuild a culture that supports life continues in every state, every community, and every part of our beautiful land. This is a battle that must be fought, must be won, not only in the corridors of power, but above all in the hearts and souls of the people. That is why under the Trump administration, we're strongly defending religious liberty. We're bringing back faith in America. We're bringing back God. We have stopped forced taxpayer funding of abortion at home and abroad. We're championing faith-based adoption and foster care and supporting our parents by investing $1,000 into an account that will grow over time for every newborn baby. With your help and support, we will continue to fight at the eternal truth that every child is a gift from God. Thank you, and God bless America.
All right, man. All good stuff. Definitely all good stuff. All right. So I actually have an engagement this evening, so I got to speed things up a bit. I'm already getting up to an hour and a half. I got to be done before 9 o'clock, so I'm going to try to go as quick as I can. J.D. Vance's speech, I'm going to go ahead and repost it. I'll read the quote at least. Vice President J.D. Vance at the March for Life, quote, "Today, the far left in this country tells our young people that marriage and children are obstacles, but we here at this march, we know that it's a lie. We know that family is not just the source of a great joy, but it's part of God's design." I mean, look, there's nothing that gives you purpose in life more than having children. I can speak for experience, and it is absolutely wonderful. The White House, thanks to President Trump, the NIH will no longer fund research using aborted baby tissue. Under President Trump's leadership, taxpayer-funded research must reflect the best science of today and the values of the American people. Let me just double check, see if there's an article. If there is, I will link it. If not, then I guess not. I don't know why X has been running so slow today. No, it doesn't look like there's one, but looks like they got this on the Daily Wire. Ahead of March for Life, Trump administration ends funding for research using aborted baby tissue. And from Mike Lee, we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. To the hundreds of thousands of Americans marching for the right to life of generations yet unborn, thank you. Let us forge a society where every child is loved and welcome, where every mother is celebrated and supported, and the tragedy of abortion is unthinkable to all. Keep marching. Amen. Keep marching, man. I'm telling you, it's the best decision you'll ever make is bringing a child into the world. It gives you purpose for the rest of your life. All right, so U.S. Senator Bill Cassidy, MD, welcome to Washington, D.C., the March for Life. As a doctor, I know pregnancy means caring for two patients, the mom and the baby. That's why I am unapologetically pro-life. Your advocacy to protect the unborn and support women matters. Proud to stand with you. And that's going to be reposted. All right, so Senate Foreign Relations Committee. Any U.S. foreign assistance programs must always reflect U.S. values. American taxpayer dollars have no place supporting abortions or imposing woke gender ideology in other countries. I'm pleased to see President Trump place strong guardrails on U.S. foreign assistance, and I hope the Senate will take up my American Values Act, which makes it clear the U.S. is not in the business of sponsoring abortion or demanding or promoting dangerous gender ideology. And the Bureau of International Organization Affairs during the UN Security Council briefing on BINUH. We delivered a clear message. The United States stands with Haiti and will continue working with Haitians and international partners toward the stabilization of the country. We will continue to demand results, accountability, and real international burden sharing as we call on member states to contribute to the UN Trust Fund and support the Gang Suppression Force. So I'll give this a play. It's pretty short, so I'll give this a play.
Haiti faces an unprecedented crisis, with gangs terrorizing communities, extorting families, and recruiting young people to commit horrors on behalf of gang leaders. The effects of this violence threaten not only Haiti, but the stability of the wider Caribbean and Western Hemisphere. We call on member states to continue to contribute to the UN Trust Fund, which supports the Gang Suppression Force's personnel costs. The United States stands with Haiti, and we will continue to work with Haitians and international partners towards the stability of the country. Thank you.
Yeah, as far as I understand, they're going through a transitional phase. I mean, honestly, when was Haiti not going through some transitional phase? But anyway, hopefully they'll get the government restructured and they'll finally have some peace. All right, so U.S. Southern Command. Which one should I go with first? Let me go with this one first. Ambassador Kevin Marino Cabrera, and he says the United States delivers on behalf of the president and Southcom. We join Patrick Weaver, PA, and again, if it'll decide to load, the senior advisor to the Secretary of War, and also J.M. Humiri, U.S. Deputy Assistant Secretary of War for the Americas, and Frank A. Brigham, or Frank Abrego. He's the minister for trying to figure out what country that. I'm not familiar. Is it Panama? I'm gonna go with Panama. I don't know. Anyway, he is there, Frank Abrego. And let's see, and the delivery of 4 past patrol boats to, so it is Panama, Aero Naval Panama, a direct result of the Secretary of War's visit in April that expanded our security cooperation. Valued at over $1.5 million, these vessels strengthen maritime surveillance, enhance the security of the Panama Canal, and strike at drug trafficking and transnational crime with greater speed, stability, and flexibility in key waterways and the canal. Peace based on strength. So they said 4 of them, right? 4 of these watercraft, inflated watercraft. Those things are expensive. They really cost over $250,000 for one of those things. I don't know, man. It doesn't look like it should cost that much, but all right. And we've got this from U.S. Southern Command, strengthening our partnership with Panama. The U.S. donated 4 rigid hull inflatable boats to Aero Naval Panama that enhances Panama's capabilities to secure the Panama Canal and combat narcotics trafficking networks. On behalf of the President and Southcom, U.S. Ambassador to Panama, Kevin Marino Cabrera, and Patrick Weaver and Jamin Humier delivered the boats to Minister of Security Frank Alexis Abrego yesterday in Panama City. This 1.5 donation reinforces the critical U.S.-Panama partnership and joint resolve to advance regional security, combat narco trafficking, and ensure the robust defense of the Panama Canal. I mean, I hope they're not going to use that to try to capture narco traffickers. Don't they have guns? I mean, can't they just shoot the inflatable portion of it and render them kind of stuck in the water? I don't know. What do I know? All right. But I'm sure it's a good thing. We do need security in Panama. I mean, they do have the Panama Canal. That's kind of important. All right, so DOW Rapid Response. This one's 2.5 minutes, so I'm going to link this. This is what we did this week at the Department of War. So if you want to find that out, I will repost that. Direct link to my profile in the description below, or you can go to DOW Response. Again, I got to hurry it up, man. And I was really trying to keep this tight for tonight, but that's all right. Maybe I'll play it over the weekend, possibly. I don't know. Anyway, so U.S. Southern Command securing the seas, protecting the homeland. Joint Task Force Southern Spear continues to lead maritime operations in the Caribbean, contributing to efforts to intercept vessels linked to illicit activities. In support of DHS and the U.S. Coast Guard and other agencies, U.S. forces are ensuring compliance with sanctions and safeguarding national interests. Operation Southern Spear reflects the commitment of the Navy Marine Corps team to maintain security in the Southcom area. U.S. military forces deployed in the Southcom area of responsibility are supporting Operation Southern Spear as directed by the Department of War and the President's priority to protect the homeland. Those aren't short enough. Give it a quick watch. All right, man. Always the dramatic music with U.S. Southern Command. As always. Very cool stuff, though. All right, Senator Jerry Moran. GM, they're bringing jobs to Kansas by relocating the production of its Buick SUV facility from China to Kansas City, Kansas. A significant investment in our workforce and win for U.S. manufacturing. This decision will create thousands of jobs for Kansas and bolster our state's economy. And that link will be at cnbc.com if you want to check that below. And another regarding the same topic, Senate Republicans, this is great news. Senators Jerry Moran and Roger Marshall are fighting to create good-paying manufacturing jobs in Kansas. This is a huge win for American manufacturing. And also, GM is going to, so Buick is going to Kansas, and Chevy, I think it's the Chevy Blazer, Trailblazer, I can't remember which one it was exactly, but Chevy, they're opening up a factory in Tennessee. They're bringing manufacturing from Mexico to Tennessee, and I think it's the Blazer that they're going to be manufacturing. So that's also fantastic news. And U.S. DOT Rapid Response, the Department of Transportation's Secretary Duffy threatens to end California's ability to issue CDLs. I've talked about this a few times on The Swamp. It's probably been a couple of weeks since the last time. But that article will be on newsnationnow.com, and that's what it looks like. DOT's Duffy threatens to end California's ability to issue CDLs. And they do have the authority. The federal government does have the authority, the Department of Transportation. I think they should have already done it by now. And the main reason is because California, they previously said they were revoking 17,000 migrant truck driver CDLs back on January 5th, but they didn't. and they're facing lawsuits from immigration rights advocates, granted a 2-month extension for drivers to retest and reapply, which sounds like it's completely pointless if they're illegals. You know, they could retest all they want, reapply all they want, and they're still going to get denied. So, or at least on the federal level, they're going to be. All right, so U.S. Department of Energy climate change agendas come at a high cost. The U.S. is encouraging the EU to pursue common sense policies that will lower global energy costs and expand economic growth.
But when you have lower energy prices, you also have faster economic growth, which means faster demand growth. There's always feedback effects here. We're going to see faster, not just U.S. growth, but global growth because of lower global energy prices. In fact, one of my messages here in Davos, talking to the European nations, the EU was a similar size economy to the United States in 2010. They pivoted, focused on climate change, forgot what energy is used for, and they've had very little economic growth. We were both 25% of global consumption just in 2010. Today, the U.S. is 28%, and the EU nations are 18%.
Wow.
That's the cost of expensive energy policies.
Yep.
And what we want to see is Europe reinvigorated, Europe to embrace lower energy prices, reindustrialize their economy, and therefore be a stronger economic and military partner with the U.S.
Oh, yeah, dude. Guaranteed they're going to turn away from all this renewable energy initiative because it's so damn expensive. But the big question is when? When are they going to do it? Probably when it's too late. Headlines across the country. Oh, U.S. EPA. So headlines across the country are highlighting EPA Administrator Lee Zeldin's action to get the agency back on track to eliminate animal testing and restore the 2035 phase-out goal that was derailed by the Biden EPA. Under President Trump's leadership, EPA is advancing humane, science-based alternatives while adhering to the law and highest scientific standards. And there's a snapshot of all of the headlines that came out. Looks like they were all from yesterday, January the 22nd. So everybody's talking about it. That's a big win for the EPA, no doubt. CBP agriculture specialists in Detroit intercepted an invasive grain pest that is quarantine significant. Thanks to specialized training and vigilance, a traveler was referred to secondary inspection when seeds for growing purposes were found in their luggage. Inside the bag was a single cast skin confirmed by the USDA as belonging to the copra beetle. Our team is frontline safeguarding our economy and environment from dangerous pests and diseases. And that'll be on go.dhs.gov if you want to get more into the weeds on that. So definitely a good thing. And I did it again, man. Why do I keep doing that? That's a little frustrating. All right. And moving on to Economic Research Service. ERS's Food Price Outlook tracks food price data and forecasts changes in the Consumer Price Index and Consumer Price Index for food. Explore the January 2026 summary findings. It's going to be on USDA.gov with the Food Price Outlook. And I know that they keep saying that they want to lower food prices. Historically, it's pretty rare when that actually happens. You know, food prices tend to track with average inflation, like 2% on average. So, but anyway, yeah, they got the Consumer Price Index for food, not seasonally adjusted. They got the data and the statistics and everything in this article. And again, that'll be on ers.usda.gov. And the U.S. Census Bureau, stay tuned for upcoming census data releases. Population estimates, 1 through 27, small area income and poverty estimates, also American Community Survey 5-year estimates, and community resilience estimates. And you can bookmark the event calendar, which can be found on census.gov. And that's going to be the website and the upcoming events that they're going to be rolling out with in the days to come. And January 27th, vintage 2025 population estimates, 2024 small area income and poverty estimates. And on January 29th, they're going to cover the 2020 through 2024 American Community Survey 5-year estimates and also the 2024 Community Resilience estimates. And Nancy Grace Roman Space Telescope, 1 million miles from Earth, Lagrange Point 2 enables uninterrupted, consistent viewing of our universe. That's where the James Webb Space Telescope is positioned. NASA Webb's ability to peer deep into the universe, studying galaxy formation across all stages, and NASA Roman's ability to capture large swaths of the universe in one image make them perfect pair for astronomers to explore nearly every stage of cosmic history. Learn more about how they will survey the universe at go.nasa.gov. Make sure to stay tuned for the next video about exoplanets. Yeah, I gotta look at this.
The Nancy Grace Roman and James Webb Space Telescopes have very different approaches to studying the universe. Webb will see galaxies that are extremely far away, whose light was emitted when the universe was very young.
Yeah,
It
just
will
be a
reveal
couple of
an
100
early
million years
universe
old.
that scientists have only explored through calculations. We have very little information about the cosmos' infancy, and Webb will help us fill in many of the gaps by making direct observations of galaxies as far into the past as physically possible. Roman, on the other hand,
Until we
will
can
use
build
the
a
power
bigger
of its
James Webb
wide
Space
sky
Telescope.
coverage to survey massive regions of space, documenting significant portions of the universe through its adolescent and early adult years. Roman will be able to survey thousands of square degrees of sky during its primary mission, enabling studies that were never possible before. Only by studying millions of galaxies can scientists begin to determine the behavior of the universe as a whole,
Yeah,
like
man,
its
the cosmic
large-scale
web.
structure and how it has changed over time.
Yeah, it's very interesting. If you look at the overall structure of the universe in a simulation, it looks like a sponge. It's very, very strange, filled with voids and filaments. Yeah, I love astronomy. I can't get enough of it. Bethany Stevens, this week we honored the lessons learned from heroes of our past and continue to build the future. NASA Day of Remembrance, Artemis 2 rollout to the launch pad, a solar storm happened, and feeding missions to Mars. And stay tuned for more. So this one's a little long, so how much time do we got? Okay, I think I have just enough time to play it, so we'll give this a play and I'll wrap things up. This is the last post anyway.
prepares for Artemis 2, while teams across the agency push forward on science, aeronautics, and technology that support future exploration. Here's a look at what's happened this week in your NASA Minute. On Thursday, NASA observed our annual Day of Remembrance, honoring the astronauts who lost their lives in the pursuit of exploration. Administrator Jared Isaacman joined agency leadership at a ceremony at Arlington National Cemetery and laid wreaths at the memorials honoring the crews of Apollo 1 and the Space Shuttle's Challenger and Columbia. We remember these members of the NASA family not only for how they served, but for what they made possible. Their legacy lives on in how NASA approaches exploration, learning from the past, managing risk with care, and continuing onward with purpose. On Saturday, the Artemis 2 Space Launch System rocket and Orion spacecraft rolled to launch Complex 39B at the Kennedy Space Center in Florida.
Looks familiar.
Ahead of the upcoming
You're familiar with the shuttle program.
The approximately 4-mile journey took nearly 12 hours as engineers moved the rocket from the vehicle assembly building out to the launch pad. Since then, the team has been configuring the rocket and spacecraft for an upcoming wet dress rehearsal, enabling communication lines, configuring hardware, and setting up the emergency egress system. Once SLS and Orion have completed their rigorous testing, NASA will announce our target launch date. So stay tuned for more updates as we
early
build
as
towards America's
February
historic return to the moon.
6th.
On Monday, NASA's Solar Dynamics Observatory captured dramatic images of the sun unleashing a powerful X1.9 class solar flare.
X-class
Eruptions
flare.
and coronal mass ejection racing towards Earth, lighting up skies with auroras visible as far south as Arizona.
Oh man, that would have been
The
cool.
burst of solar energetic particles tied to this event was the strongest observed since 2003.
What?
By
Anybody
monitoring
catch those?
activity like this in real time,
The Northern Lights?
NASA's heliophysics missions help scientists track and mitigate the effects of space weather, protecting astronauts and satellites in orbit and critical power and communication systems here
Yeah,
on
it's
Earth.
kind of important.
Two former U.S. Air Force F-15
Solar storm, it
fighter
can
jets
bring down our
joined NASA's
electrical
fleet
infrastructure
at
if it's
Armstrong
powerful
Flight
enough.
Research Center, beginning a new chapter as airborne test platforms for advanced aerospace research. Capable of flying at more than twice the speed of sound and reaching extreme altitudes, the aircraft will support cutting-edge flight experiments, including testing tied to NASA's quiet supersonic X-59. NASA is inviting
Hell of a plane.
innovators to think differently
Very
about
sharp.
how astronauts will eat on Mars, launching the new Mars to Table Deep Space Food Challenge. Open now through July 31st, the competition challenges teams to design an end-to-end food production system that can operate independently on the Martian surface, from growing and preparing meals far from Earth. By tapping into public ingenuity, challenges like this help advance critical technologies for deep space exploration while strengthening the broader space economy. And finally, NASA astronaut Chris Williams, part of Expedition 74 on the International Space Station, joined in the excitement about Artemis 2, sharing these images that he took of the rocket and its shadow as the space station flew over the Kennedy Space Center from nearly 250
That's
miles
wild.
above. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time on the NASA Minute.
All right. Well, all I gotta say is they better figure out how to grow garlic on Mars, because things aren't gonna taste as pleasant unless you got some garlic growing up there. So anyway, that's gonna do it for this episode. If you enjoyed the video, please give the video a like and subscribe to the channel. And I'll be dropping a new show on Monday as I cover the swamp Monday through Friday, covering everyone in it, the politicians, the bureaucrats, and the agencies. And also, I'm posting daily on X, and anytime I remember, I post the video on X as well, so feel free to comment over there too if you'd like. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a great rest of your night and a fantastic weekend. Stay safe out there, stay warm, and God bless America.